To identify parallel and perpendicular lines from coordinates, you want to compare the slopes of the lines. Parallel lines have slopes that are equal, while perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. To find the slope of a line, you want to subtract the y-coordinates over subtracting the x-coordinates. I have the formula here listed in the top right corner, but it's good to know that this is the exact same formula. You can start with either point. So let's go ahead and find the slope of the line that goes through those blue points. We want to subtract the y's, so I have -2 minus a -5 over subtracting the x's, so -3 minus 6. Simplifying the numerator, negative is positive, so -2 plus 5 is 3, and then -3 minus 6 is -9. Simplifying that fraction, we can divide both the numerator and denominator by 3, and that gives us -1/3. Now let's find the slope of the red line. Subtracting the y's over subtracting the x's, we will have 0 minus 3, and then subtracting those x's, 3 minus a -6. Simplifying, 0 minus 3 is -3, and 3 plus 6 is 9. Both are divisible by 3, giving us -1/3. Notice the lines, the blue line and the red line, those would end up being parallel because the slopes are equal to each other. Let's go ahead and find the slope of the green. Subtracting the y's, I have 5 minus the 2. Subtracting the x's, 4 minus 3. I end up with 3 over 1. If we simplify that fraction, 3 divided by 1 is 3. Now comparing the slopes, it might be better to take a look at the slopes when you have a rise and a run. But perpendicular lines, the slopes are opposite, meaning one's positive and the other's negative. And they are reciprocals, so we're flipping those fractions over. So going back from 3, let's look at 3 over 1. Okay, that is a positive fraction compared to those yellow ones. And then we've also flipped it over. The line that goes through the green points is going to be perpendicular to the blue line and the red line. Let's just look at a couple more examples of just perpendicular slopes. So if you use the formula, and let's take a look at what we have. Let's say that we have a couple of slopes that we found, and one of the slopes is 2/3 and the other is -3/2. Notice these are opposite reciprocals, so those would be perpendicular. If the slope of one of the lines was -2, that would be the same as -2 over 1. So if we flip over -2 over 1 and change the sign, we would have +1 over 2. Here's one more example that I think is the trickiest. If a line has a slope of 0, then it came from a fraction that was 0 over a number. So let's say 0 over 1. If you take the fraction 0 over 1 and flip it over and change the sign, you would end up with -1 over 0. Dividing by 0 causes an error message. That is undefined. So the takeaway there is, if the slope is 0 and the other slope is undefined, those two lines are perpendicular.